Activism and like my team specifically is like they're allowing the safe space and the opportunities to learn. Being the only African American athlete on the team, it's like they come to me for answers and they come to me with questions and expect me to have answers. And I can't answer for an entire community, but they allow for me to share my experiences and share my knowledge with them so they can learn and grow with me. So in that sense, it's like I'm building my own little small community to help my larger community by allowing my knowledge to be spread throughout the world and throughout the university and throughout my team to make one big happy family almost.
Just piggyback off what you said, I kind of have I'm just curious, since you're the only African American on your team, is there a certain amount of responsibility, is there a certain amount of stress that you may feel knowing that whatever you do is what they may associate with the overall culture?
Yeah, actually, this isn't the first time. So at my previous school, I was also the only one, the only African American. And it's almost as if I'm the poster child without labeling it as poster child. But with teaching them and teaching a lot of people who we are, their only source of information is from me. So if I steer them in the wrong direction, I could potentially create a stereotype or narrative that my whole community is like me, which I try to teach them and try to inform them that that's not the case and that I'm not the only one in this world. But when they do ask questions or have interest or perspectives of any sort, I try to explain to them that I do have my own set of experiences that could be different from you, where you're on a team with that's like triple the size of mine.
Yeah, that's true.
With even one more black person than I have. So it's like you guys can bond over experiences that you have, whereas I'm the only one. So it's like talking to them, it's like a gift and a curse. Like I can share who I am with them and they love it, but I also have to like warn them that I'm not the only one. So
sounds like a
tough position to be in.
Yeah, tough position to be in.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky.
Yeah, like what I know for you, where is that balance between showing your individuality, however, knowing that some things that you say will carry more weight within them than if you said it between you and me?
It's actually pretty ironic when it comes to like me and how I communicate with, I call him Freeze, my weights coach. When he walks into the gym, me and him greet each other in a very unique way, as they put it, because we don't speak to each other how I speak to them. You know, they call it code switching. And when I speak to him, you know, I let, you know, a couple things fly and, you know, we have a great old time when we greet each other. But when I talk to them, I kind of switch how I communicate because we're not of the same culture.
Yeah.
And so certain things have like, you know, a line in the sand or a difference. And so it's very interesting to like express my individuality because I can't separate who I am and what I am from like my individuality, but it's also taking who I am and like breaking it down into bits and pieces and sharing it with who I can.
That's true. That's true. And you know, knowing, well, not saying that I understand where you're at in this moment, but knowing for myself, I went to a middle school that was predominantly white, and I went through 4th, 5th grade that was predominantly white. And as a kid, you know, luckily I didn't really see those different cultural clashes. It wasn't as evident to me, or I wasn't as aware of it, even though it was kind of evident. I'm the only guy with the afro. Everyone wants to touch my hair and see how it feels. They never felt it before. And, you know, I'm a kid. I'm like, okay, I guess everyone does that, but not knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like my parents were a big part of my awareness.
Okay.
Right around the time I think I started driving, like 15, 16, they like had the talk. And they were like, you know, there are going to be people in this world that don't understand you, but it's not your job to make them understand. And so when you come across people who don't understand you, you be polite and you make sure that you are nothing but polite, and then you come home and tell me about it. And the only reason I said that with driving is because I can get pulled over. I can get a lot of things driving, but when you are in the face of injustice, your sole goal is what they told me is to make it home. And so you have to be yourself, but you also have to be polite and, respectful and all of these things. So it's very odd to say that I think we are, as a people, made aware of certain things at a younger age than most kids are.
That's true. No, that's very true. I remember that talk growing up. Even to this day, I know that my mom, she wrote a note down and she put it in my driver's seat. She said, anytime you get stopped by, please just show him this note. And basically just shows, okay, he has a mom. Okay, this is my son. He's a very good, he's a very good guy, a very good boy.
Oh, wow.
Please, yeah, but it's caring on one respect, but then it also is kind of scary on another that a guardian, a mother, a father thinks that they have to go to that length to protect their son, their daughter, from encounters that might not be so rewarding to them.
Or inevitable. You can't avoid them either.
You can't avoid them either. And in that moment, what they're praying about is that whoever we encounter in that situation is someone that sees the same or a similar love that they share for us within us and what they love. It's almost like seeing the humanity of another person, not as just a statistic, not as such an object, especially when, as Black people, we are so easily relegated to those menial things, So it shows how much, although everything is it's getting better, everything feels like it's getting better and everything, but there's still so much work to do. It's just dealing with those stereotypes, dealing with those premonitions, those intuitive things that we go about life just learning and experiencing. That's not taught to us in school per se, but it's just taught to us just through life.
Bringing up stereotypes, what is a stereotype that you just dislike, or that is put onto us that you don't feel like belongs there?
Man, this is kind of like the story of my life per se, in that the way that I look physically.
I think you're gonna go very close to what I'm gonna say too.
Yeah, sometimes with the stereotypes that are put upon, the way I look physically sometimes does not line up with the stereotypes of how I express myself, of how I talk, of how I carry myself, of how I walk, and generally about how I feel about myself. In our society now, so many people are boxed in to certain roles, to certain ideologies, to certain experiences, that it is almost like sometimes it can be a surprise for people to see something that they haven't seen before. And it's something that I've definitely had encounters with, even showing up at this university. You see me, I'm big, I'm strong, I look like, if you don't see me, if you don't hear me speak, I could look menacing, but it is only through the intellectual means of expressing myself that I'm able to really show you who I am, and a lot of Black men in general, they sometimes are not afforded that opportunity at surface level or within first encounter. Many times they are boxed in, many times they are giving a label without any due process. And it's tough. It's tough, especially when you have to grow up in that.
It's disheartening.
It's disheartening. It's disheartening at all. And, it puts a lot of people within a type of limbo, per se, if they are shown, if they are experience so many different ways or so many different cultures or so many different ways of life. So I could go back to my own experiences. For me, up from preschool up until third grade, I went to a predominantly African American school. And within that, I was, brought into I experienced something different than when I went from fourth grade to about eighth grade, when I went to a predominantly white school that was more middle class to high middle class, And luckily, because of my parents are immigrants from Nigeria, so they just got here. But luckily, through their tutelage and their cultivation of myself in general, the change towards the fourth to eighth grade wasn't as culture shocking. However, that doesn't change the fact that there were certain things that I was shocked with, and some things that I had to learn within that, I could say that it made me a better person, but I could also say that there was a lot of hardships that went through that, and though some of them were hardships that I did not think I would have to encounter.
Yeah, those are the most complicated, when it's like it happens and you're like, well, why is this happening? But then why is it happening to me? It's a very unsettling feeling.
Yeah.
And for me, it's kind of piggybacking off of you. My younger brother, is built just like you. He plays football and basketball. He has very brown skin. He's tall. And he's the opposite of me. I'm, rather light skinned, and I'm, strong, but I'm tall and, thin, quote unquote.
Yeah. Lean.
But put it at lean. But for him, I get scared because my brother, who is the same race as me, but looks more scary, I'm afraid for him.
Yeah.
Because it's like somebody could prejudge both of us at the same time, and I might make it out, and they take you.
Yeah.
Or they might prejudge you as anything, and then just let me go. And it's a very unsettling feeling because we grew up the same way. Yeah. We went to the same schools. He just happened to adopt my father's genes, and I got my mother's. It's like it's so odd to me that in a world, two brothers who look identical, except for the shade of our skin, can be deemed as one is scary and one is approachable.
Yeah. Is there another stereotype that comes to mind?
They all kind of root from each other, but like aggressive, I don't like that adjective. Scary, I don't like that one. I don't know. I've never really heard of a good stereotype. Yeah. About like my culture and my people, but
you're athletic. You guys are always athletic. You guys can jump out the gym. What are you talking about?
Yeah, those are all, but like we're used to put us down.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say there is a good stereotype, but I guess being more athletic can't be a bad thing. But I don't want to be.
You don't want to be.
I don't want to. Yeah, why can't I just be talented? Why do I already have to have brownie points for being?
Yeah, and we could see these physical, hyperbolic statements or hyperbolic stereotypes being put on our culture. Even though maybe on some occasions, it could be true, but however, the damage it does is that it relegates us to. Oh, he's just fast. Oh, he's talented.
Or it confines us to certain sports.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like it's a not talked enough about thing to where many people, I think, choose sports for their children based on their ideologies of what they think their children would be good at, based on their ideologies that they already know about. So I feel like most kids that are African American are pushed to play basketball, football, because we're supposed to be good at that.
Yeah.
We're already like predetermined to have the upper hand in that sport.
Yeah.
So I feel like parents push their children to do that, which it works out sometimes, but like what if we had a Serena? What if her father never let her play tennis?
Yeah.
Because of his own ideology.
Or Tiger Woods. play golf. You know?
Or Simone. Like, there are a lot of
Maybe
athletes
athletes.
who go against the grain and choose a uncommon sport,
Yeah.
and then it works out, and then everybody's like, oh, we need more.
I mean,
Well, if everybody could break this habit of pushing their kids to one sport,
Mm-hmm.
then we could have diversity amongst all sports. There are a lot of talented kids out there that don't get a chance because of predetermined decisions based on their parents.
that's true.
Which I'm not blaming their parents, but you can only do what you know.
That you can only do what you know. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And, you know, it's funny because, you know, when we think of sports growing up, okay, we think of LeBron, we think of Michael Jordan, you know, we think of these big, like these icons that we want to encapsulate, you know. However, you know, we're never given the opportunity to really think about other things. Like, what if a black kid really wanted to be the next big chess player, you know?
I didn't even think about chess.
We
But
never
yeah.
think about it. No, we don't think about it. You know, we don't think of that as a viable way of competition. You know, and that's where these stereotypes of okay, we're always athletic, we're always strong. It's almost like a bias that
Yeah.
is said, and then we believe that bias, and it becomes a cycle. You know, we're not able to really think beyond about other things that we could try and achieve. You know, other things that we're definitely capable of. You know,
Yeah.
there's so many sports out there other than football, basketball.
If my parents believed a lot of the things that they were told about the sport of gymnastics, if they believed it, I probably wouldn't be sitting right here today. They were told gymnastics for girls, gymnastics isn't for boys, or it's not for black boys. It's not. It's a lot of things.
Yeah.
But if they believed it, I wouldn't be a gymnast right now. I'd probably be playing a different sport. I probably would have stuck with football and basketball. And I mean, who knows where I would have went? Well, who knows where I still could go with this sport? But it would have never happened
That's true.
if they believed everything that they were told or what's out there. Or, for me, I don't feel like it's a responsibility to educate anyone on my culture. But in order to interact and be in, you know, this group of people where I'm the only one, I feel like I can and I'm willing to educate you for the betterment of myself. So not only am I educating, you know, my teammates on my culture, or I don't even want to say educating, but just making them aware of what my culture is like. I feel like I'm opening up a window for them to now see the world in a different light. But the obligation is not there. And there are some instances where they want to know things and they want to ask and they want to, you know, they are curious. And that's not for me to answer. And I've told them this before, like, oh, I don't know. Straight, I don't know. Or it's not my job. It's not my experience. It hasn't happened to me.
Yeah.
If you're very curious about it, then you have the right to look it up. But I'm not going out of my way to study this specific topic to then bring to you and teach it to you. That's just not who I am.
That's not you, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, staying true to yourself is a big thing when it comes to that, you know.
Can definitely lose it.
Yeah, you definitely can in this life, you can. Ever since I got into college, I've leaned so much within family. I've leaned so much within identity. As the parents of immigrants, I'm afforded the benefit of learning the knowledge and wisdom of two cultures. I am ethnically Igbo, and I also am able to learn so much about African American culture and be a part of it as I was born here, and that's something that I've wrestled with at times in my life, but I believe that I've found a great balance within myself that allows me to amalgamate all the persons within me, all the personalities, all the ideologies, all the passions, all the things that I like, you know. It's within me, and it's gone to a point where it's at balance. It's not warring with each other. It's at a peace, you know, and that peace is only satisfied through constant introspection, through constant hard work, through constant diligence, and then just through constant seeking of knowledge. In this life, if you're not willing to better yourself, as the days go by, you will lose. Yeah. You will lose not only your potential within life, your potential to do great things, but you will lose yourself because you're constantly changing. Yeah. So if you're not able to deal with that, if you're not able to look inward within yourself from time to time and be honest with what you're becoming, then in due time you will forget who you are, and soon you'll become like everyone else, and like the masses. And for me, that's something that I believe was taught in me early, to, no matter what happens, always have the confidence to believe in yourself, always have the confidence to believe in who you are. Because if you don't believe in who you are, then whatever comes your way, whatever obstacle hits you, you will fall from it. As humans, we are not as strong as we think. So it is a constant battle that you have to go through, but at each time you have to put your best foot forward. You can't try to brace it. You can't brace the obstacle. Yeah. You have to run through it. You have to take it on. Yeah. So,
for me, how I identify in my culture is it's very tricky, because my parents and grandparents all share their experiences with each other, and then they share them with me. And so within my culture, I feel very involved and immersed, and I feel like a lot of wisdom is shared. And so it's helped me get to where I need to get to, like even today, where when certain situations and obstacles come about, I can battle those obstacles with the wisdom that I was given in the culture that I was immersed in within my family. Mm-hmm. And so sharing that with the world, it allows me to shine a light on the culture that I have. And being an African American man, it allows me to fight the stereotypes of everything that is placed onto us, and allows me to show that our culture is beautiful and motivational and inspirational and just a wonderful thing that I can also be and then share with others.
Yeah, that's awesome. For me, to just go on your point of how do I identify myself within the culture, I say that I'm blessed that I had parents that were able to guide me in a way that allowed me to see the merits and see the beauty within both cultures, whether it be my ethnic culture, Igbo, or African American culture. My dad especially is so integral to that, and I believe it's from his own experiences. When my dad got here, he was actually he was part of a church within Chicago that accepted him, and this is a time when African Americans and Africans, there was a certain clash, but they accepted him, and they treat him as his own, and he was able to be part of a community here in ways that he probably did not envision, and it's through those experiences that he was able to learn so much more about the culture, and because of that, he's able to instill it upon his children. And because of that, I say that I'm incredibly grateful to everything that I've learned up until this point, and everything that I'm learning within the culture as I'm part of it now. There's a certain door I have to go through when it came to that, because when you're growing up, it's almost like you're seeing two worlds collide, and sometimes you want to be in this world, sometimes you want to be in this world, and sometimes it feels like they're clashing, they're not in sync, but it's really up to the person to find a balance in which it syncs for you. It's true to yourself, to your identity, and within myself, I know that I'm able to reap the benefits of it. I'm able to put my best foot forward. I'm able to instill what I can within it. And I'm also able to learn so much more because Black culture is so vast and it's so diverse. You know, being on this football team, I've seen so many iterations of it. I've met, you know, my African Americans in Florida, my African Americans in Alabama, my African Americans that came from the West Coast, that came from the East Coast, you know, and you see the different manifestations of that community, you know, and sometimes it may be vastly different than what you're used to, but once you learn it, you feel the beauty in it, you know, and that's something that, you know, I think that if people were just more open to learning, more open to taking in new perspectives, I think that our society would be better off if we think that. And also, I think that our society would be better off if people are willing to share also. You know, I know that within this time, you know, especially with, you know, a lot of social issues that are going on, everyone is so defensive at this moment. Everyone wants to cling on to what they have because they think there's someone else trying to take away from it, you know. But if we are able to kind of let our guards down a little bit and try to talk to each other, you know, one-on-one, you know, try to learn what makes you you and what makes me me, you know, I think that we'll come to a greater understanding, a greater communion than we have tried using other methods that, you know, we see now that aren't really beneficial, that aren't efficient, you know, and it's sad at times that, you know, at this age you would think, okay, we would have
figured it
found
out,
something new, you know, but in life, you learn that, you know, many times things are slow. Change is slow, you know. Change isn't as fast as we thought. Change wasn't as fast as Martin Luther King thought, as Malcolm X thought, as the Civil Rights Movement thought, as the Black Panther Party thought. Change is very slow. And any way in which we try to expedite it that's not genuine or that's not facilitated by all is just going to go by the wayside because there's always going to be something fighting it.
I think Malcolm X and Martin Luther King were both fighting for our people to know their worth. So I think they were trying to get us to understand that we are worth a lot. We're worth way more than we give ourselves credit for. We're worth it. We're worth everything. And so if we as a people can understand that concept, we can overcome a lot of things. And so with that being said, today, I think with that message of you are worth it and you are worthy being understood by a lot of African American individuals today, they already understand that. I think we already understand that as a growing generation. I think the messages and the community and the unity of our people would have gone a lot faster.
I think that MLK would definitely have a similar like perception than when he was in the 1960s, in that his ideals and the mode in which he wanted to create those ideals was something that is more palatable than, I believe, Malcolm X's mode. However, I do believe that within the Black community that there will be more supporters of Malcolm X than he may have had back then. In that those supporters are probably have seen the kind of protesting, the kind of activism, the ideology that MLK left when it came to protesting and you know, doing any form of activism. And I could say that many of them might be frustrated with it. Many of them might have grown tired of the peaceful protests, turn the other cheek type activism, and may seek a more active type protests,
Yeah.
and one where their own perception of themselves is put at the forefront more than MLK's was. Because although MLK was for black empowerment, was for black freedom, MLK also knew the need for other people to be brought into that. Before he was assassinated, he was actually gearing up to start the Poor People's Movement. However, I would say Malcolm X's mode would probably gain a lot more social media coverage.
I think a lot of the older generations passed down the idea of turning the other cheek is not what you have to do anymore. No. Like I feel like back then it was a necessity to live. Like you had to choke it down and you had to calm yourself and you had to like turn the other cheek.
Yeah.
And so that was what was taught to them by, you know, Martin Luther King. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that's what they had to do.
It was needed at the time.
But now it's more of a I can stand up for myself. And even my parents, they were like, you can stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself, no matter what. It's just what I think we've learned over the years at looking at history is we don't have to give in to injustice. We can stand up for ourselves and face injustice without any consequences being brought to us to the degree that it was back in the day. If you stand up for yourself, you might have some repercussions, but you're not threatened with death. You might get a slap on the wrist, meaning, you know, you might get in trouble because, you know, actions do have consequences. But standing up for yourself is not a fear anymore.
These conversations here is one that you usually don't have throughout the daily, you know, walkings of your life, you know. And as athletes, these conversations here isn't one that you're necessarily expected to have, you know, which is in its own way can be very comfortable, but then also could be very confining, especially if you have so much to say. And for me, I would say for my personality, it allows me to tap into other reaches of myself in which, you know, daily life won't allow you to, because it's so busy. There's so many things that are on your mind, and the outlets to have this conversation are few and far between for us college athletes. But I do say that when we're able to have conversations like this, it feels so good within the soul to have it.
It's like, refreshing.
Yeah, it's refreshing.
Yeah, especially for me, I don't get to have interactions with people of my culture as often. Like there are a few girls on the women's team that are of my culture that, you know, we have unspoken communications and spoken communications where we can talk and be understood within each other. And so to branch out and have a conversation like this with an athlete of a different sport is like very eye-opening and awakening and like refreshing, because it's like, who knew that an athlete of a different, you know, different sports culture could have very similar experiences like me, or even an individual from a different part of the world than me can have similar experiences and, you know, lessons in life.